time we watched the first 4 shorts in season 13's Short of the Month Club.
Oh, it's time to salute your shorts. That was a different show, wasn't it?
You know, sure. If you say it was a different show, Chris, I believe you.
You don't know Salute Your Shorts?
No, I don't know Salute Your Shorts. I must, though, huh? You're talking to me like I should know.
It was a Nickelodeon show that ran for one season in 1991 to 92. Sorry, 2 seasons, 26 episodes.
Okay, Chris, when you talk to me as if I should know something, I think that the things I should know should be a little less obscure than a Nickelodeon show from the early 90s that ran for 2 seconds.
Well, it was a good thing. It took place at a camp, and the title screen said "Salute Your Shorts," and it had people putting shorts, as in boxer shorts, up a flagpole.
Of course, because what else do you do at summer camp besides meet your twin and change places with them on your parents? Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was the plot. I can't remember. I don't think I watched it. I just liked the name.
It is a good name. I'm going to have to grant them that. Are you wearing shorts now, Chris, for our shorts episode?
I mean, I'm not wearing pants because it's still technically summer, so...
I guess that's true. It's just barely summer as we are recording this.
That's why we don't have the cameras on.
Seriously, it feels like summer here, though. Apparently, Portland's decided to have a heat wave. Like, good choice, Portland. Thanks a lot.
The heat finally broke here in Toronto. This is not interesting for our listeners.
No, I know. This is totally like, did we just become middle-aged in the last 3 seconds? We totally did.
Yeah, we are old. But this is just a bonus episode, so it's going to be a little looser and a little shaggier. But hey, we've got shorts. We haven't had shorts for several seasons now, and we're drowning in them.
Okay, so I watched the shorts, and I watched them independently, and then I watched them all like in a line, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have to say, I kind of miss having the shorts be connected to a movie. I appreciate the shorts much better when they're connected to a movie. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just nostalgia.
I totally agree. And I think part of the reason that I like it more is because they often would lead to some of the host segments. And then they just sort of think about them or interact with them a bit more. It kind of ends now and you're like, okay, now what? Like you don't get a moment to think about them with the bots.
Yeah, and I like a lot of the comedy riffing that they did off of some of the shorts. So yeah. I guess I missed it. I mean, not that they didn't do a good job with the riffing. I enjoyed them riffing over these episodes, and I enjoyed watching all 4 of them in a row to get like a couple tastes of Jonah. I get a taste of Joel, get a taste of Emily. It's pretty awesome. I get the different bots interacting with them. It was nice to watch them all in a row to get a sense of the different satellite and simulators.
I don't know if you've peeked ahead at the most recent one put out at time of recording.
No, I haven't.
It's called Cavalcade, and it is riffed by Pearl and Dr. Earhart.
What?
Yes. What? It was a complete surprise, a complete treat.
They got their own simulator? How did they have bots?
They popped into a simulator. It was just the 2 of them. It was just the 2 of them, yeah. It was very charming to see them riff together. It was great.
Aww.
Yeah, we'll get to that next time we do one of these roundups.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying that. I'm really loving the openings with Mary Jo as Pearl and sometimes with Cynthia on there. I think they're doing a great job with it. But you're right. I wish there was a little bit more. I mean, historically, there are a couple of wayward shorts that were never attached to an episode that are still fantastic. But I don't know. It's nicer when they're part of the movie. But they're still fun.
Now, Chris, I haven't watched any of the shorts episodes that the Mads have done on their own channel. How does that compare to the shorts that they're doing here in the Short of a Month Club?
I think that they're more successful because there's a bunch of them. And I also think, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit in some of them, but I think the Mads are more willing to dig into some of the issues behind the shorts. Like they're more willing to make sharp, politically inflected jokes than we're seeing here, despite some of the very political nature of some of these shorts.
Yeah. Wow. Yes.
And actually, that's probably a pretty good segue into our first short.
Ooh, let's go.
Pipeline to the Clouds is the story of water and how GE, I guess, is helping make it more part of your life.
I was just shocked that basically I'm like watching this and I'm like, like blah 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 blah, and it took like 20 minutes for me to figure out that this is basically an ad for GE. Like
Yeah.
what what are we doing? And the innovative men of GE who are going to save the world for us. It's basically a commercial.
Yeah, sort of. Because it was, as far as I can tell, it was part of a thing that GE was doing that they called More Power to America, which
Mm.
included a comic book, which we'll have a link to in the show notes. It's kind of cute and kind of boring at the same time.
Like a quick draw McGraw, not McGraw, the crime dog, McGraw the crime dog type of
McGruff?
tie-in with the comic book. McGruff, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yes.
Sort of, sort of. This was a comic that I think they gave out on the train
Huh?
because there was a train that was part of it. It was an exhibit train, and it was a thing that would sort of like a Disney ride at Epcot or something. It would tell you all about power in America and what GE is doing as you went on the train. And you would get this comic book as part of it. And I think they would show some films because there were a few films that are attached to this project as well.
So did I have to travel to where this train ride was? Or did the train ride come to my hometown the way Thomas the Tank Engine does now?
Well, probably both, because as you know, America's train system is desperately lacking in coverage. But
It's true. And even then, we loved our cars.
yeah, I don't know, because I've only been able to find bits and pieces. Like I didn't have enough time to fully deep dive into this, but just trying to piece together from the little ephemera that I could find online made me curious. So I think that this was shown as part of that. So it's sort of like one of those Epcot films. I don't know if have you ever been to Epcot? I forget.
I have been to Epcot, but I went when I was like 10 years old. So the impact of a GE video was very different for me than it would have been now.
Sure, sure, of course. But like you know what I'm talking about, where there's like, I don't know, imagination, and it's brought to you by Kodak, but like it's all about the powers of imagination. And then at the very end they slip in a little bit of, and Kodak helps you remember the imagination that you've had. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how they fit
Oh,
it in, but
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So it's that kind of thing where you're there inside the train, learning about water, learning about what we've done to it, how wonderful the future where we all have water will be, how water shortages, they're a thing, even though we feel like we're surrounded by water.
Yeah. Water everywhere and not a drop to drink, right?
Well, exactly, because that's one of the things that I found a little frustrating with this riffing is that they never talk about the water issue.
No. Although I have to say, Chris, one of the things I appreciated was at least they called out some of the really awful puns that were inside of the short, the pooling puns and all of those. It was a little much, but you're right. Like they did do one thing with the men of industry, like when they were showing, and the men of the waterworks industry are designing things that are going to make everything better. And they did call out that being only men working towards that, and that their true goal was really to keep the women thirsty. But that was about the worst they got.
No, that's true. And I also understand that, like, talking about water scarcity and how it's becoming a huge, huge problem is not fun.
No, but somehow GE had a good time with it. I don't know why our riffers couldn't.
Because GE were at the end of the stick where they thought they had a solution and they were going to make lots of money providing it. Whereas now it's clear that they didn't, or they didn't have an adequate solution.
Yeah, I guess we know that going up into the clouds and like seeding them with little bits of silver doesn't actually solve our rain problem. Who knew?
Oh boy! And I guess I feel like if the Mads were doing it, they would have found a few more ways to they'd at least mention the Colorado River or something. I don't know.
Sure. Well, I mean, we did get a whole bunch of dam references, right?
That's true.
And that's mostly just Hoover Dam over and over again. So
yeah. The other thing about this short is that it's actually 24 minutes long, unmisted, and they edited it down to 10 minutes. Wow.
Chris, I cannot imagine this thing going for more than double the running time that it already was.
There's so much more animation of the rain cycle. I didn't watch the entire thing unmisted. We'll have a link in the YouTube if you want to watch it. But yeah, they seem to have trimmed it from here and from there.
that sounds like they're leaning harder into like how the men of industry are bringing solutions to us rather than just the casual reference of like, we will be saved by GE.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not an exciting enough short to want to watch the whole thing, although I did enjoy the musical numbers.
Yes, it's true, but it wasn't as good as Puerto Rico.
No, heavens, no. No, Progress Island USA? No, it was not as good as
Absolutely.
that
No,
one.
that was
Absolutely
the
not.
best musicals, I think, in any of the shorts they've done. Although I do have to say, I did appreciate the passing TLC reference that they made with the "We don't advise chasing waterfalls."
Yeah, that was
I
fun.
really appreciated that because, there's a closet TLC fan in all of us.
I don't know how closeted that, I mean, at least for that song and one or two others, I think they're pretty universally beloved at this point.
It's true.
Nobody wants Jason Waterfalls to go, and nobody wants Scrub. Actually,
No.
maybe, I don't know. I kind of like Scrubs. I don't know. They're all right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be catcalled from somebody sitting in it. I don't want to be catcalled at all.
Well,
Like
okay, if
no one
that's
in
what
a
we're talking
car.
about.
No one in a car is worth catcalling.
I guess as somebody who
So,
isn't a driver, I have respect for somebody who's on the passenger side and their best friend's ride. Like, that's fine.
fair
That doesn't make them a
enough.
bad person.
Yeah, but I don't want to be hollered from you when you in the
No, fair enough, fair enough.
So I did appreciate, the water at the bottom of the ocean, good talking head reference in there too. I mean, honestly, like if all they were doing were musical riffs through this whole thing, maybe it would have been like a more tonally consistent riffing and we wouldn't be missing the absent political jabs that could have been there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. They're doing their thing. I shouldn't critique it for what I want it to be necessarily, but it's just such a charged issue. And it's like, why are we choosing this short out of all the shorts in the world? Because there are bazillions of shorts that they could have watched. And I guess it's because the Disney movie choirs singing folk songs at the beginning are quite funny. But,
Oh my goodness.
But it just feels like if you're gonna pick this short, you might as well run with it.
That's true. And at least they did. I mean, they were heavily veiled, but they did get their whole Song of the South digs in the very beginning when we saw all of our paddle wheel boats.
Yep.
But then we moved directly into like modern day, and it was a little jarring. I don't know if the 24-minute long short actually gives you more of a transition between, older times with the use of rivers and now with the use of rivers, but whatever. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I do also have to agree, like, oh, we're in Disneyland and now there's like 16 places to buy lightsabers. That was not the case the last time I was in Disneyland. Just saying.
I mean, I haven't been there too, but I've certainly heard tell about how intense it is now.
It's all Star Wars all the time, which is not a bad thing. Star Wars is great. Lots of people really love it. Disneyland is all about giving the people what they love. That's what makes it the happiest place.
And apparently they did a very good job with the Star Wars exhibit thing.
I have only heard positive things. However, Disney is not where I go to buy my lightsabers.
No, you're in Portland. There's an artisanal lightsaber shop on every corner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally want my artisanal lightsaber. Well, the next short is all about let's make a meal in 20 minutes in which we spend time in a 50s kitchen with not the lady of the house, but perhaps the oldest daughter making us a meal with all of the fantastic things that are existing inside of the cupboard and their well-stocked fridge.
Yes, the lady in training of the house, I suppose you could say.
Oh my gosh, that sounds horrific.
And yet that is the horror that you're staring at with this short. It's all about how she must learn to fulfill this role.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I know. It was the scariest short I've ever seen. That's not true. But I did notice, did you notice the CNH sugar inside of her cupboard?
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't look for that.
Uh-huh.
That's a good call.
Uh-huh. Well, I was noticing it, of course, because in our last episode, we talked about C&H sugar because they referenced it. And I don't think it's a box that you would be looking for inside of a cupboard because you would have grown up with Domino's. But I saw it and I was just like, I'm pointing that out to Chris because I see it. I see you, C&H, in my cupboard.
Excellent. All right. So this Let's Make a Meal in 20 Minutes was also riffed by Jonah, just like the first short.
Mhm.
And it was directed by a guy named Edward G. Simmel, who also directed a short called A Date with Your Family from
Oof.
season 6's Invasion USA,
hmm
which is fairly similar to this in terms of its tone and what it's trying to do.
Sure, except it doesn't focus on just one character and what they're doing. It talks about how the whole family's coming together. So maybe it's a little bit less. Maybe it's a little less like, look at the woman in the kitchen doing the stuff. This is what we're training our ladies to be doing.
It's more about that than you'd hope.
I guess that's true.
There's also another film that was done that stars Sally Gasco, our heroine from this film. She appears in a short called Let's Make a Sandwich.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that. Does she, in fact, make a sandwich?
She does with Mom. She and Mom make a sandwich. What kind of sandwich do you think she's going to make to feed the hungry men of the family?
I'm going to go with my bologna has a first name. It's OSCAR. Orange Square American cheese, Wonder Bread, and mayonnaise. Which of those items are in her sandwich?
I think none of them.
What? How can you make a sandwich in the 50s without mayo?
Okay, here's what you do. You get out your double broiler.
Stop. That's work.
And you get a pat of butter and some milk, and you let that all congeal. And then when it gets nice and warm, you add in a can. Because remember, you have to have a bunch of canned and otherwise like around the house foods.
Oh, cream of mushroom soup. Yeah.
Yeah, not that exactly this time. No, because you're adding in tuna. So you want some canned tuna to go in.
Of course. Of course.
And you're going to mix that around because you have guests over and you didn't know it. So you just need the food that's in the cupboard that you've got all pre-made. And that's great. And it's the 50s and we're all loving it.
Yes.
So you mix that up and then you put it on top of some buttered rye bread.
What?
Mom chose rye bread because the caraway seeds add a little bit of a kick, which complements the blandness of the tuna and cheese.
Oh my gosh, Chris, that seems so ethnic for the 50s.
It's wild. And they add Tabasco on top for color and flavor.
What?
And of course, they garnish it with parsley because Mom's a big fan of the color that parsley brings to any dish. And you can eat it.
Yes. Plastic parsley. You can use it over and over and over again. Do you remember that from the Alaska Airlines commercial from the 80s?
No, not.
That's all right. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with Alaska Airlines.
Yeah, but you grew up with TV. You grew up with commercial.
Yeah, but we didn't have commercials for Alaska Airlines. They don't fly out east.
You're right. Boy, Alaska Airlines and C&H Sugar, these are the things that you missed out on.
Yeah, that's true. But I did get to watch Julia Child, who, of course, loved throwing handfuls of parsley onto everything.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. And lots of butter, too. She would have been down with that sandwich.
Yeah. Did you grow up with parsley on things? Like decorative parsley?
I feel like decorative parsley was absolutely what would have been put on things when you ate at like Denny's or something like that, right? Like you would have a little, if you had dinner there, not breakfast, right? Because breakfast doesn't have parsley, please. But
oh no, it does. It does. You can definitely put parsley with an omelet or next to some pancakes if you're really weird.
You're right. So there you go. And you get that little splash of green and it makes you feel like you're actually having something that attempts to be a vegetable, which I have to mention, they like Jonah and the bots were talking over the only informative thing in the entire video, which was how long I actually have to cook my vegetables for. And I'm like, God darn it, I'm never going to know how long to cook my canned veggies now for. What are you doing to me? I'm going to poison myself now, Jonah. Thanks a lot.
Well, I don't think you shouldn't be poisoning yourself with the canned vegetables unless they've definitely gone off and exploded a bit. But
unless I'm the one who canned the vegetables, but still.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think they even said that you wanna cook it not too long. which is surprising because I think of food from the 50s as being cooked to death.
Oh, yeah. No, it's true.
Or maybe that's just what my mother's vegetables were like.
Speaking as a person who didn't grow up eating in your mom's household, yeah, that's just kind of the way that veggies were sometimes. I think we've gotten better about not boiling things to death because you can nuke them for less.
That's true. That's true.
I had a question for you. This is totally off topic and you may not know the answer, but at the very end, one of the bots says something like, they've caught me drunk dialing Postmates. And I did not understand the reference at all. And I don't know if you did, but it was such a weird, like, outro. And I was just like, drunk dialing Postmates? I don't know what they're talking about.
Postmates is like Uber Eats or DoorDash. It's one of those services. And I think it's a very urban one.
Okay.
But I think they specialize in like bicycle people and so forth. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Huh. Yeah. No, that one didn't land for me. You know, the terrors of the patriarchy did, but drunk dialing Postmates, not so much.
One of the things that I loved about this short, which you can also see in the Let's Make a Sandwich short, is the logo for the film company.
Oh my gosh, the Georgia O'Keeffe logo?
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's a flame, but it looks like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting, or rather, it looks like something that looks like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. Mm-hmm.
How would Georgia O'Keeffe paint that flame? I know.
Which always reminds me of my own intimate experience with the Georgia O'Keeffe painting, or a poster of a Georgia O'Keeffe painting.
I don't know how you can, in good conscience, talk about your intimate experiences with a Georgia O'Keeffe painting on this podcast, Chris.
Well, I'll tell you. It was at my first proper job. My first proper like desk job where I had my own desk, but I didn't have my own office. My desk was sort of in a hallway, kind of. People could walk by it all the time. And when I got the desk, there was a wall and I could have some art up. And they specifically had this Georgia O'Keeffe poster, which nobody wanted to have up because it was far too suggestive for any of them. And I said, oh, I'll take that. That's great. I love it. Put it up there. Partially because I didn't care, and partially because the painting went behind me, which meant that anybody who came up to talk to me looked past me and had to look at the painting, and I never saw it.
That is so fantastic. You got to see everyone's reaction to it without actually having to see it. Oh, that sounds so delightful.
It was amazing. Oh, people cringed so much. There's so much flinching from the poster when they remember it was there.
Nice. I have a friend who works as a nurse in a hospital, and about every 3 weeks, they rotate out the art that's inside of one of the lobby areas where she is. And she sends us on our text group the new pictures. And for the past 8 months, they have been the most vaginal representations of flowers you could possibly imagine. I mean, orchids galore, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But no, they're actually like photographs of orchids, but they're like all lit like Georgia O'Keeffe was looking at them. And then, of course, this last time she sent us one and they're like, they're not even trying to disguise it anymore. It's just a big old vagina. It's awesome. It's fantastic.
It's so good. I mean, I'll also say part of that was even back then, this was in the early 90s.
Back when people weren't used to seeing vaginas on the walls all the time.
And and even then I was like, get over it. It's a vagina. It's natural. Like, it's fine. I mean, it's a flower, but what it's making you think of shouldn't be a thing that you flinch away from. I understand that you wouldn't necessarily want to see like an actual photo of an actual vagina at work, at the office. I understand that could make you uncomfortable, but it
might depend on your office, but sure, the office that you were working in, no, it's the wrong context.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a short all about making a meal real quick when you haven't had time to prep for it. What's your go-to in that situation?
Wow. Our go-to in that situation, if we have everything inside of our fridge that we need to for it, is probably breakfast for dinner.
Oh.
Right. If you have eggs and you can scramble some eggs and do some toast and maybe like throw in a pancake or two, breakfast for dinner, and it always feels like a treat because it's out of the normal context.
Yeah.
And being a household of meat eaters, we might throw in some sausage or some bacon as well. But that's always like pretty fast and doesn't heat up the kitchen too much. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
How about you?
My go-to, if I have it, and I usually do, is gnocchi with pesto. Just
Ooh.
takes only a few minutes to boil up, and then you've got the pesto in a jar that's pre-made. You plop, plop, plop. Very tasty, very satisfying, very tummy filling.
Excellent. Oh, yeah. Good choices.
There's some variation. Other pastas are available. If I'm really in a desperate state, couscous is very fast, and I
That's true.
appreciate that.
Hmm.
And it's very easy to keep that in bulk and just add a few things to it to beef it up. Although it's not very, none of these are very good in terms of having a side dish, having veg.
Yeah. I mean, our other one besides the breakfast for dinner is probably like bean and cheese quesadillas or burritos.
Yeah.
Super quick.
Yep.
Gives you everything that you need.
Yep. I will say, like, the options that we have now are so much better than they were in the 50s, which, fair enough, it's been 70 years. But, like,
Yes. If there's one thing that we've advanced in, it's being able to eat faster.
yeah, and to have better canned and boxed and whatnot and
Mhm.
frozen foods.
Oh,
That,
yeah.
just throw a pizza and throw some pierogies, throw some whatever. So easy.
Yeah. Perhaps we're just willing to embrace more variety of foods inside of those connotations. I mean, I'm thinking about what my mom would have thrown together really quick for us, and it might have been something more like tuna helper or something like that, right? Where it's all like noodles, sauce, and canned tuna, or hamburger helper, same sort of idea, but with
Yeah,
cooked hamburger. And my mom doesn't do anything like that now because there's so much better option. I mean, which is not to say tuna helper, hamburger helper, I would still eat that stuff, but it wouldn't be my mainstay in my pantry.
I don't think they've come out with a tofu helper yet, but I don't know
No.
if I've had a helper as an adult.
Huh. Yeah.
Makes you think.
Doesn't it though? At least for our next set of shorts, we leave Jonah behind and we're going into some of our new riffers, which is pretty awesome. So for the next one, we have Emily riffing with her bots for something called Court Case. And I have to say, I read the title for this and I totally got fooled. And Mary Jo called me out on it right away. I thought it was going to be a courtroom drama. I thought it was going to be like I Accuse My Parents, or the short where the kid gets caught cheating and then he gets kicked out of student council or something. But no.
Yeah. Cheating.
No, it was like a 20-minute ad for tennis balls by Penn, and they just said balls so often. It was like I was giggling the whole time. It was embarrassing, but not.
They said balls so often, and
Oh
yet
my gosh.
it really felt like they were holding back.
I know. Well, the video said it often enough. It's hard to say it more.
Oh, it's so good. I think this was my favorite of the four, to be frank.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because Emily and her team are great, partially because balls, and partially because I just naturally like these kinds of films. These sort of, let's show you how it's made. Let's go behind the scenes. Let's look at all the extrusion of rubber and the application of this, that, and the other things, and the giant machines and the professionals who know just how to flip over the tennis balls that are all adhered to each other. And it's good stuff. It's very satisfying.
Your favorite episode of the Mr. Rogers Show was the one where they showed you how to make crayons?
Yeah, or Sesame Street also had those like colored pencil segments. I think in their very first episode they had one of those. And it's just gorgeous. It's just beautiful. And like they were very good. They knew the music, they knew how to do it without having narration. Penn isn't going to trust you that far, but but it's still kind of a fun short. Like I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, yes and no. I don't know. I have to say, like, okay, I mean, I giggled because we got to say balls a whole bunch, but it was just like, and here's what rubber looks like, and here's a bunch of chemicals we also use. And then, like, here are the people who work at the factory who are clearly all women and people of color. Awesome, everybody.
There's one white guy.
Sure. Maybe. Was there?
Yeah.
I don't remember the white guy. I remember the women who are all smiling.
There definitely were more women, and there definitely was at least one non-white guy. But yeah, there's some awkward-looking gangly kid.
I also don't consider tennis a form of war, which is sort of the premise of the whole thing. Like, we have to make really good tennis balls because tennis is a form of war.
Okay, yeah, that is how they start the short. And it's interesting to think about that because here's the thing. We don't know when this short came from. There's no copyright information on it. It's not in IMDb. It's on YouTube, and we'll have a link in the show notes for that. But the person who put it up on that YouTube channel seems to have been the one who digitized it.
Oh. Uh-huh. But didn't say anything about where it came from?
They said it was taken from a 16 millimeter film print that I collected and was probably made in the 70s. That's all they know about it. There's no copyright. There's no nothing. There's no record of it. It definitely looks 70s, so that seems reasonable. And of course, the 70s, I think it's still a little early. Like, I think this would have come out before the Battle of the Sexes between Bobby Riggs and Billie Jean King, where it was a very publicized match that was designed to show like the war of the sexes or something silly like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that was 1973. I wouldn't be surprised if this film was before that, but I can't tell you because we don't know.
Yeah. I like that they suggested that the rejects of the insides of the tennis balls were actually then given to become Muppet eyes because they really are perfect. There was such a perfect vision. And I was like, good job, Emily and Bots. Good call. That's exactly where I want those to go. That's exactly what I want to be thinking of when I'm cutting tennis balls in half.
Are you often cutting tennis balls?
No, well, so I don't use tennis balls for actually playing tennis. There was a period of time where, my kid was into playing tennis and that kind of went by the wayside. The only time I really do see tennis balls is when I go to senior convalescent homes and when I go to Kansas City because somebody brings a big old bag of tennis balls that they've sliced open that go on the bottom of all of the chairs so that when you're opening your chair and sitting down and then scooting in, you don't screech and it doesn't echo all through the convention center.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. Muppet eyes, actually, or at least Kermit's eyes, back in the day, the original eyes were made from ping pong ball halves.
See? So as the Muppets got bigger, they had to graduate to larger balls.
I'm just going to put in a cricket noise there.
Oh, man. There was a riff that they made that I did not know the reference to, and I'm sorry to be surprising you with this, but they said like Katamari Damacy or
You don't know Katamari Damacy?
I don't know Katamari Damacy. What is that?
Oh, it's a brilliant video game.
Oh, it's a video game.
It is such a good one. You'd love it. It's a video game. It's from 2004 was when the first one came out. There were two of them, basically. Let's keep it simple. And in Katamari Damacy, you are playing a prince, a little tiny prince, very, 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 very tiny prince. Your father is the king of all cosmos. And last night he went on a bit of a bender and he destroyed the stars and the constellations and the moon. And so he asks you to rebuild them. And so he gives you this little sticky ball that you roll around. And then as you roll, it gets bigger and bigger as things adhere to it. So you start off a typical level, maybe on a table, and you're picking up little thumbtacks and so forth. And then you build up bigger till it's dominoes, and then you build up bigger till it's, matchsticks or matchboxes, and then you get to water bottles, and then you get to cats, and then you get to barns, and then you get to
I've played a similar game. I've played like Tasty Planet on the phone, where you have to move the phone around and pick all the things up, and your little guy gets bigger.
Yeah, so, that's what that's ripping off.
There you go. Well, now I know the origin of that game.
But Katamari Damacy also, it's a great game. It's a lot of fun, and it has some of the best music ever. I can't recommend it and its sequel highly enough.
Oh my goodness. Well, you have to put a link to that in the show notes so that I can look it up too. Because it's just not something I was familiar with. And I was like, I got to ask Chris about that. I'm so glad you knew.
I'm happy to spread the word. I don't know if there's an easy way to play Katamari Damacy. I think they did recently re-release it for things that you may be able to play it on Switch.
Oh, all right. I will have to look it up in my on my Switch. Sounds good. Did you also notice in this one? I'm sure that you did, but I adored the thing that they said was dog bone shaped.
Yes.
And Emily, good job. Emily was like, I would have gone with maxi pad shape, but sure.
Yeah, it's the little fuzzy bit that gets sewn onto the tennis ball and that sort of weird, not quite figure eight, but plump kind of shape. Yes, absolutely looks like a maxi pad.
Way more maxi pad shape than it is dog bone. I get the whole in the 70s, maybe a man had never seen one of those things before. And well, you just can't cut half the population out of a conversation like that, right? So you got to reference something everyone will understand.
Right.
Mhm. So I thought that was lovely. I appreciated that. Thank you, Emily.
But given the dog bone shape of the satellite of love,
Oh.
does this work transitively? Does the satellite of love also kind of look like a maxi pad? And if so, does the It's Just a Show t-shirt also look like a maxi pad? Because that's not what people report. People saying it looks like.
No, and that's because there's more. Like when you look at that tennis ball piece before it's been sewn into ball shape. Oh God, I love the way we get to say ball all the time. It's balls shape. I mean, that's the difference, of course, right? When it's 2D, it looks like a maxi pad, but maybe if you 3D that sucker up, it looks more like balls. I don't know. So, but definitely, I mean, maxi pads are a more two-dimensional object than,
True.
the satellite of love is, and anything that it might be reminding people of. The satellite of love is something that I would say is more dog bone shaped than maxi pad shaped. But the
Yes.
pieces of the tennis ball, that's more maxi pad shaped than dog bone shaped.
Okay, we're going to have to do one of those illustrations that's sort of like the ape evolving into a human of maxi pad, dog bone, satellite of love.
It might have to be our next shirt. God, marketing at its finest, right there.
Okay, we've got one more shirt to talk about, and it's got Sleepy Voice Joel riffing it, and it's called Sleep for Health.
I didn't even think about it being sleepy voice Joel. I don't think of him as having a sleepy voice.
He doesn't have as sleepy a voice as he used to, perhaps, but
Perhaps.
he was sort of known for that at one point.
Yeah, I gotta say this when it started out in black and white and Joel was riffing, I was like, these are the shorts I remember from the MST3K of the past, right? Like the old ones from the 50s. We're going to tell me how to live my life better. So good. So good. Do you have good sleep hygiene, Chris?
Oh, no, absolutely not. In fact, I took this short as a personal affront. No, my sleep hygiene is the worst, even under the best of circumstances. And the last few weeks have not been the best of circumstances. I actually went and got a sleep study done recently, which we'll see what comes of that. But yeah, no, I have never. I had so friends of mine had a kid. Friends of ours, actually. Friends of ours had a kid, and were talking about, as the kid got a little bit older, talking about sleep training them.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, was I absent this day? Is there still room in the class for me to learn about this training for sleep that you can apparently do? Because sleep is sleep is a war where every night I have to pummel myself to sleep.
There you go. Tennis is not war, but sleep is for you.
Your sleep hygiene must be pretty decent.
Yeah, sure. I think on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being I have an awesome sleep health and like 1 being you apparently, I'm probably more in the 5 to 6 range. But I think my routine moves around a little bit too much. And part of that is prepping for work and those sorts of things. And, I definitely identify with those comics that have the like brain, like waking you up at just as you're falling asleep with some random ridiculous thought that then keeps you awake for another hour. Like I identify with that. So there are some things that are just terrible, but I do try and, go to bed at a fairly regular time. And I do have to wake up to go to work and take my kid to school at a fairly regular time. So there are some things that constrict my routine. So it's not all over the place. And that's helpful. If you have something that forces you to wake up in the morning, then you do end up over time needing to go to bed at a reasonable interval. Not for everybody, but I found that for me at least. Not right away. The beginning of the school year is always horrific for a while. So I don't know. I want to go into my bathroom and be brushing my teeth like with my kid next to me or something where we're like racing through our routine. And I want that sports commentary that they were doing during the toothbrushing though, because that was so motivating. I want that. That was so much fun. So, because apparently cleanup before bed is part of that regular routine that I ought to have.
I feel like this is all tied in with my general attempt to not believe in time.
There you go. If you're going to reject the construct of time, then yeah, sleep is going to elude you because it is based in time.
Exactly. And like, if you believe in time, you get old.
Oh, is this how you're staying young?
This is how I'm keeping my baby face.
Aw, I knew there was a strategy.
It's not being very successful. It's finally catching up with me as I'm entering the latter half of my 40s, but
oh man, maybe you just don't have enough sins to count like these children do. I loved that riff. I'm counting my sins. Oh, that was so much fun. I especially liked when they stopped and they were like 241. God, that was a good one.
That is good.
So much fun.
Is there anything that is particularly exciting in your going to sleep routine?
I know that this totally eludes you, Chris, because you're like a 1 on the scale, but the whole point of a sleep routine is you don't have something exciting in it, right?
Well, okay.
Maybe that's what you're doing wrong. I mean, I don't want to judge because,
you forget how exciting I find boring things. I really liked the tennis ball film.
It's true. It's true.
I watched a good bit of that on Rift.
Oh. Maybe you need to read more Garfield comics like the dad in this one does. That'll put you right out.
It might.
So, yeah, no, there are no exciting things in my bedtime routine, Use the facilities, brush the teeth, put on PJs, maybe read, maybe check in with my Animal Crossing. No, I can't do that because that'll keep me up. Do some Sudoku, the usual. Is that what everybody does?
I guess so. I don't know.
Clearly.
I don't know. I literally don't know. I have a thing which barely works for me, and I stick to it doggedly because if I deviate from that, I'm up several more hours than I expected to be.
Yeah. No, that's no good.
It's miserable. Okay. Well, let's talk about something else. How do you like to be woken up?
I don't like other things to wake me up, right? I like me to wake me up. I appreciate that they suggest that one might wake up before their alarm. That's not the case for me on a school day. So, I have an alarm on my phone on my bedside table, and that's what wakes me up in the morning and starts my routine. And, on the weekends, I tend to wake up on my own, and I'm usually the first one in my house up. I don't know. How do you wake up?
So for a while, I was able to do the trick of waking up just before the alarm.
Oh.
I don't know how I pulled that off, but there was a little period where I could do that when I was like getting up at a regular time for work and so forth. Now, if I have to wake up at a particular time, I have become very fond of being woken up by my watch alarm, which it vibrates, right? So it's a little vibrating thing. And it is incredibly effective, incredibly non-disruptive. It's not that like horrid sound of the kind of stuff going off.
Oh, good Lord, no. If I had to have the alarm clock that kid has in the video, I would totally wake up before that alarm just so I could turn it off because those old-timey clocks were horrendous. So does that mean that you wear a watch to bed or is it on your bedside table?
No, I wear it while I'm sleeping. It also does some sleep tracking for me, so that's always nice.
Okay. So you have lots of data about your sleep?
Yeah, I'm gonna have metrics even if I don't believe in time.
Nice. It's measuring something other than time.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's measuring depth of sleep and pulse rate.
It's measuring which hours I was asleep, but it's not telling me how long those hours were. And that's the important thing.
That seems subtle. So subtle.
You have to be really tricksy if you want to escape the clutches of time.
Yes, clearly. Especially if you love numbers. I mean, time is one of the things we love to count.
Yeah.
And look at you, you're trying to count other things, which still happen in a progressive order, sort of like time, but they're not time. I feel like this is a semantical argument.
Well, look, okay, but think about this. Think about negative numbers.
Oh, stop.
When you count negative numbers, does time go backwards? Maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It depends on how you define things.
What about complex numbers, huh? You're measuring in directions other than time.
I try not to live on an imaginary plane because I don't really know how walking works there. I mean, electricity flows in all directions, but I'm not sure how step goes. I did wake up unnaturally once. I had a squirrel tail and a hat. Yeah, no, that was one of their silly riffs. I totally want a squirrel tail though. That'd be more fun.
I feel like we're drifting off here.
We are drifting. Yeah, I know, but not drifting off to sleep. You're going to be awake for like another 3 hours, and I'm going to be dreaming about squirrel tails.
All right. Well, we've done it. We've talked about a couple of shorts, and we haven't driven our audience to sleep, we hope.
Do you think that people use our podcast to drift off to sleep? I mean, I know there are people who listen to podcasts and books in order to fall asleep.
Yeah, I used to do that. I now have videos on that I've watched before, usually for some reason that works better for me now. But yeah, I assume they do. And if that's you, wake up. We're almost done. Okay.
That was a little shocking there, Chris. I'm going to start counting my sins again.
Well, while you count, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to be watching next time?
Ooh, next time we're going to be watching Season 8, Episode 16, Prince of Space. And it's for a very special occasion, Chris. I bet you know what it is.
I bet I do, because we celebrated it on our Twitch stream the other day. It's Donald Pleasant's birthday again. The episode will almost certainly be coming out a few days after Donald Pleasant's birthday, but it was still, it'll be in the several weeks that we dedicate towards celebrating Mr. Pleasant's.
Because you can't just celebrate it in one day. It's so much more.
Exactly. So yeah, we're going to be looking forward to that. He's not in the movie. Let's just make that clear. But we've chosen it for a reason, and we'll find out more next time.
Now, you guys already did all of the MST3K episodes where Donald Pleasance makes an appearance, right?
Yeah, unless they add another one someday.
But Adam will have to come back to guest star on that one, because I don't know how I can. I don't know how I can fill his shoes when he could be talking about Donald Pleasance with all of our listeners.
Well, we'll find out next time. But until then,
I'm still looking for the baby in that sleep short. I'm sorry. It disturbs me just as it disturbed them.
And I see I've written in my notes, let's make a meal in 2 minutes, which I would if I could. Take it away. Theme Squad is on vacation. All right. We're done.
Bye.